You've been waiting for permission, waiting for signs, support, or the right moment. But those who rise don't wait, they decide. They walk into storms with the belief that nothing can break them. That belief becomes power. It builds momentum. Acting as if nothing stops you doesn't mean you never fall. It means you never fold. The shift begins when you stop looking for certainty and start moving like it's already yours. In a few moments, I will teach you how to act with boldness, move with certainty, and break through every obstacle. You are more powerful than you act. You walk through life as if your hands are tied, but have you ever truly tested your own strength? Not the kind that bends iron or lifts stone, but the strength to persist when others quit, to hold your vision when others scoff, to keep walking forward when the world closes in. Most men are imprisoned not by iron bars, but by invisible walls they built from doubt, fear, and memory. Why do so many act powerless when they're not? Because they've mistaken obstacles for barriers. They've confused discomfort for danger, and they've believed, wrongly, that failure defines a man instead of refining him. But here's a secret. Your limits were not born with you. You picked them up like dust by listening to those who stopped believing in themselves. The truth is simple. You can rise. You can act. You can move forward as if nothing stops you, because in reality, nothing can unless you give it permission. So how do you begin to tap this power? Start by refusing to speak limitation over your life. Replace every I can't with I'm learning. Speak boldly to yourself. Act deliberately. Walk as if the outcome is already yours. When your steps are firm, doubt has no place to settle. Picture this. Imagine you are standing at the foot of a great mountain. Most turn back at the base, seeing only the steep cliffs. But you take one step, then another, telling yourself with each stride, this path is mine. And suddenly, the summit no longer feels distant, it feels inevitable. So let me ask you, have you been walking through life like a guest in your own home? Or will you begin to act as the master of your fate, moving forward with certainty, not hesitation? The way you carry yourself shapes what you attract. Have you ever noticed how people are drawn to those who walk with certainty? There's a silent force in the way you enter a room, the way you hold your shoulders, the way you respond when pressure rises. It's not magic, it's not luck. It's posture. It's belief expressed in behavior. You can create outcomes by the way you carry yourself. Why does this matter? Because the world is not searching for another timid soul. It's looking for someone who acts with quiet conviction, someone who knows what they stand for and makes others feel safer simply by staying. When you act small, life shrinks to match you. But when you act bold, opportunities appear that once seemed hidden. What is this force that changes things before you speak? It's the discipline of presence, the refusal to flinch, the willingness to stand tall even when your knees are shaking. To build this, begin with one habit. Rise each morning and decide, I will walk, speak, and act today as if I belong at the table of kings. Then live into that decision. Do not wait for permission. Do not seek approval. Decide who you are and act accordingly. Picture this. You enter a meeting, not as someone seeking validation, but as someone bringing value. You sit. You listen, you speak only when it matters. And without saying much, your energy commands attention, not because of who you've been, but because of how you now carry yourself. So I ask you, are you shrinking in the presence of life? Or will you expand into it, shoulders square, eyes forward, acting as if nothing, absolutely nothing, can move you off your path? You become what you persist through. Greatness is not handed to men, it is hammered into them, forged in fire, shaped by struggle. And that is why most will never touch it. They seek ease. But you must train yourself to do hard things again and again until difficulty becomes your default and struggle becomes your strength. Why is persistence so rare? Because the man who persists must suffer in silence while others feast on distraction. He must keep digging when the gold is still buried. He must keep walking while others sit and point fingers. But this is the secret. The one who keeps going becomes the one who stands alone at the top. What does it mean to act as if nothing stops you? It means to see resistance as a friend, not a foe. It means to laugh at failure, not at delay, and keep building with faith while others doubt. How do you do this practically? Create rituals, not routines. Wake before the world does. Begin each day by reminding yourself, I move forward no matter what. And when pain shows up, don't retreat. Tighten your grip. That's how persistence is formed, not in one grand gesture, but in 1,000 silent choices. Picture this. You're planting seeds in dry soil, no sign of life for days. Weeks, the neighbors mock you. Even your own thoughts whisper, give up, but you keep watering. Keep showing up. And one morning, when no one's watching, it sprouts. Your effort breaks through. Now tell me, will you let the silence stop you, or will you persist until the silence breaks and your success shouts? Your mind is a kingdom. Guard it fiercely. Every battle you face out there starts in here, in the mind. Before a man is defeated in life, he is defeated in thought. And before he wins in life, he wins in thought. The mind is not a weak candle flickering in the dark. It is the sun if you learn to command it. Why do men lose their way? Because they allow doubt to rent space in their mind. They let fear deliver monologues. They treat every thought as truth, but not all thoughts deserve your attention. Not all voices are yours. So what must you do? You must stand at the gate of your mind like a soldier. You must challenge every thought that weakens you, every idea that makes you smaller, every memory that chains you to the past. Replace them with truth, with power, really with visions of who you're becoming. Here's how you begin. Write down what you believe. Speak it aloud each morning. Let no day pass where you don't remind your mind that you are in charge. Your thoughts do not own you. You own them. Picture this. Imagine you're walking through a crowded market. Shouts, chaos, noise. That is the untrained mind. But then you build a wall. You hang a sign. No entry without purpose. Now the noise stays outside. Inside, clarity, focus, peace. Let me ask you, are you ruling your thoughts, or have you allowed every wandering fear to sit on your throne? Every step forward is a vote for your future. Each decision you make is not just a choice, it's a whisper to your destiny, shaping who you are becoming, brick by invisible brick. You may think the turning points in your life will come in loud, dramatic moments, but the truth is quieter. It's not the grand gestures or sudden breakthroughs that forge your future. It's the repeated steps, taken in silence, often unnoticed, that slowly sculpt the man you were meant to become. When you act as if nothing can stop you, it doesn't mean the path is clear or resistance is absent. It means you've placed your future above your comfort. It means you've made a vow that no matter what stands in your way, doubt, fatigue, failure, you will keep moving. Most men stay the same, not because they lack dreams, but because they underestimate the force of small, repeated action. They wait for the perfect moment. They wait to feel ready, strong, inspired. But transformation doesn't come from waiting. It comes from motion, from doing something, anything, that aligns with who you wish to become. That's the real secret. Progress does not demand a heroic leap. It only asks that you take the next honest step. Then take it again and again, with faith, with discipline, with belief that the man you are building is worth the repetition. So where must your focus lie? On momentum, not speed. On discipline, not drama. On repetition, not reward. One decision repeated with intention becomes a habit. That habit, lived out daily, becomes part of your character. And character, that is the substance from which your future is carved. Life does not respond to wishes. It responds to who you consistently are. Not occasionally, not when you feel like it, but every single day. What do you do when you feel numb? When the fire's gone? You move anyway. You get up anyway. You remind yourself that motion is meaning. You remind yourself that each act is a statement. This is who I am. You become your own proof, and you cast a vote for the man you are becoming, not through words, but through your walk. Now picture this. A man, quiet and consistent, lays a single brick each morning. Others mock. They don't see the vision. They laugh at the slowness, the simplicity. But he does not flinch. He keeps building, a brick, a brick, a brick. Days become weeks, weeks become years, and one day he steps back, and before him stands a fortress, impenetrable, undeniable, built not by bursts of effort, but by the steady hand of resolve. So I ask you, what are you voting for with your actions? Are your days a reflection of the man you say you are? Or are you betraying your own future through hesitation and excuse? Maybe it's time to cast a new vote, not by speaking louder, but by acting stronger, with your pace, with your presence, with your steps. Let your life become the declaration. Let your daily discipline become the proof. The man who moves without waiting wins. You wait. You tell yourself you're just being wise, waiting for the right time, for that clear signal, for the cheerleaders to show up, for certainty to strike like lightning. But let's face the truth that most men avoid. The right time doesn't arrive. It's not found, it's forged. The man who succeeds isn't the one who discovers the perfect moment, he's the one who creates it through movement. Most men, in fact, never even begin, not because they're incapable, not because they lack strength, but because they've convinced themselves they can't start without applause, without a guarantee, without everything lined up and blessed by fate. They wait their lives away, mistaking hesitation for preparation. Why do people delay action so long? Because they believe readiness is something they'll feel, as if one day they'll wake up with no doubt, no fear, just overflowing certainty. But readiness isn't a mood. It's not a blessing. It's a decision. You decide to move. You choose to start. Confidence isn't something you're handed. It's something you build, one action at a time. The courage you want doesn't precede movement, it grows through it. You don't become fearless and then act, you act while still afraid. And over time, the fear fades, not because it's gone, but because you've grown. The man who acts, even imperfectly, is already ahead. While others are analyzing, hesitating, second-guessing, he's gaining ground. While they draft plans, he lays bricks. While they wait for more information, he creates results. The world honors those who move, not those who muse. And you must train yourself to become one of them. That's the difference between the one who watches and the one who wins. So how do you become this man of action? You burn your escape routes. You remove maybe from your language. You declare your direction each morning with finality. Today, I go. Today, I grow. Today, I take the next bold step. Don't wait to feel ready. That feeling rarely comes on its own. But action is a generator. It sparks clarity. It fuels momentum. The fog lifts after you walk through it, not before. Now picture this. Two men stand before a storm. One scans the sky, reading signs, looking for patterns. He writes, he wonders, he waits. The other adjusts his coat, steadies his breath, and starts walking. One man has knowledge, the other gains distance. When the storm fades and the sun returns, it's not the thinker who has traveled, it's the mover. So let me ask you directly, what exactly are you still waiting for? Are you expecting someone to tell you it's time, to hand you perfection? Newsflash, they never will. Life offers no permission slips, no flawless conditions, only the step right in front of you, that one real opportunity to move. So will you take it, or will you keep circling the same decision day after day as time slips quietly through your fingers? Speak as if your words shape the world. Your words are not just sounds, they are seeds. And whether you realize it or not, your life is the harvest. Everything you speak to yourself, about yourself, and around others shapes the soil of your reality. Speak small, and your world will shrink to fit your sentences. Speak with conviction, power, and vision, and you will awaken forces within you that have long laid dormant. You will rouse strength you didn't know you had. This isn't motivational fluff. It's the invisible law most ignore. What you speak is not separate from what you become. In time, they merge. Your words build the house you live in, yet most men speak weakness over their lives. Not because they are broken, but because they've been taught that their words are casual, that their speech is just noise. But the truth, the tongue is a weapon, a builder, a compass. It points you toward your future or locks you in your past. Say, I can't often enough, and the world will echo it back until it becomes a cage. Say, I will enough times, and you begin to walk through walls that once looked like permanent barriers. The difference between power and pity is often found in the sentence a man repeats every morning. So what should you say? Speak as if your voice is the signal your spirit has been waiting for. Speak like a general issuing orders to his army. Your life destiny is listening, because it is. Every sentence is either calling you forward or chaining you to the same place. If you want to shift your entire direction, begin with how you speak in the first 10 minutes of your day, before the world gets loud, before the doubts arrive. Speak your vision, not to impress anyone, not to feel good, but to remind your own soul who's in charge. These are not affirmations for the mirror. These are declarations for war. You are not pretending. You are proclaiming, reminding yourself of what you've chosen to believe. Tell yourself, I don't shrink, I solve, I rise, I move, and then act like it. And never, never speak defeat in the middle of your battle. Don't curse your efforts while you're still climbing. Don't speak of giving up when your breakthrough may be one action away. Your words must carry you, not drag you back into the pit, especially when you're tired, especially when the outcome is still hidden. That is when your voice must become your anchor. Picture this. Two men walk into a job interview. Same education, same skill set. One mutters, I hope I'm good enough. The other says with quiet certainty, I bring value. I solve problems. Who gets the offer? Not the man with the better resume, the man with the bolder belief. The man who used his voice not to beg, but to build. So let me ask you, what have you been saying lately? Are your words shaping a future you're proud of? Or are you muttering your limitations like a lullaby, putting your potential to sleep with every passive phrase? Your future is listening, your mind is listening, and your spirit responds to what your mouth repeats. Speak with strength, speak with direction. Speak like a man who knows his words are laying the foundation of his next level, because they are. Your reputation begins with private discipline. You want respect? Don't start by seeking it in the eyes of others. That's the end, not the beginning. True respect is born in silence, in the hours when no one's watching, in the dark mornings when the world sleeps, and you rise. Not for praise, not for validation, but because you made a vow to yourself. The man who commands admiration in public is the one who has already won 1,000 unseen battles in private. The way you train, the way you think, the way you speak to yourself when there is no applause. That is what shapes the man others will one day admire. And if you cut corners in private, don't be surprised when the world sees through the illusion. You cannot fool your future. It remembers what you do when no one is watching. It sees your habits, and it pays you accordingly. Why do most people demand reward without discipline? Because they've been trained to chase applause instead of mastery. They want the trophy without the training, the respect without the responsibility. They believe image is more important than integrity. But you must not be like them. You must become a man of depth, a man who builds in silence what others only pretend to possess. Be the man who works while others boast, who keeps the promises he makes to himself, especially when no one else is there to witness. That's where true power is born, not in spotlight, but in solitude. So what should you do with this truth? You build a life that impresses you first, not your neighbor, not your boss, you. Start by mastering the morning. Wake early, not because it's trendy, but because it's a statement, a declaration that you own your time. Plan your day before it steals itself from you. Keep your space in order, your room, your desk, your thoughts. Clean space, clean mind. Honor your word, even in the smallest of matters. These are not small acts. These are declarations of who you are. And these tiny disciplines, repeated day after day, create a presence that others can feel the moment you walk into a room. That's how reputation is built, not from dramatic gestures, but from quiet excellence that becomes your normal. How do you develop this kind of strength? You stop making your actions dependent on your feelings. You set standards that do not waver. You create non-negotiables, lines that you will not cross, routines you will not break, not because someone is watching, but because you are. You say, I do this no matter how I feel. That is the beginning of mastery. That is the birth of trust in yourself. And remember this, discipline is not punishment. It is the highest form of self-respect. It is proof that you value your potential enough to act on it, even when it's hard. Picture this. A man walks past a mirror. He doesn't flex, he doesn't pose. He nods, not out of vanity, but out of recognition. He knows himself. He trusts himself, because he remembers what he did when no one was watching. The early mornings, the workouts, the journals, the times he showed up when it would have been easier to quit. That nod, it's rare and it's powerful. It is the quiet confidence of a man who has nothing to prove, because he has receipts. He doesn't need permission to believe in himself. He's earned it. Now reflect. Do you admire yourself behind closed doors, when it's just you and your thoughts? Are you proud of the man you see? Or are you putting on a show for the world while crumbling inside? Your answer will tell you more about your life than any praise or title ever could. You cannot demand respect from others until you give it to yourself first. And that respect, it is earned in silence, in sacrifice, in the sacred, unseen work. Because in the end, it is not your charm, your clothes, or your charisma that will make your name matter. It is your consistency, your integrity, your invisible victories. Those are the bricks that build a reputation strong enough to carry weight. So choose wisely what you do when no one's watching, because that is where the foundation of a powerful life is laid. Confidence is earned by keeping your word. You want to walk boldly through life? You want to act like nothing can stop you? Then there is one place you must begin. Keep your word to yourself. Not once, not sometimes, every time, especially when no one is watching, especially when it's hard. Because the man who cannot keep promises to himself cannot build self-respect. And without self-respect, no title, no position, no applause will mean anything. You might gain the world's praise for a moment, but your own reflection will always know the truth. And if you don't believe in you, that crown you're chasing will fall from your head the first time the winds of doubt blow. Self-respect is not a luxury, it's your armor. Why do so many men struggle with confidence? Because they believe it's something you're born with, that some men just have it. But confidence is not gifted, it is forged. It is a reward you earn when your actions match your intent. Every time you say, I'll do it, and you actually do, you're engraving trust into your nervous system. You're sending proof to your brain that your word is law, and that law becomes your backbone. That is how men rise, not by noise, not by pretending, but by doing, quietly, repeatedly. And what happens when your words and actions finally align? Something rare. You begin to trust yourself. You stop second-guessing. You stop over-explaining. You move through life with a kind of quiet strength. Not arrogance, but assurance. It's in the way you walk, the way you enter a room, the way you speak. You don't announce what you'll do. You don't need to. You've made a habit of proving it, and that speaks volumes. People feel it, and slowly the world starts to trust you too. Not because you demanded respect, but because you demonstrated integrity. So how do you begin building this kind of unshakable confidence? Don't start by trying to conquer the mountain. Start with one step, one promise. Make one simple commitment to yourself each morning. I'll wake up at this time. I'll read these pages. I'll complete this task, and then keep it, not because you feel like it, because you said you would. Let that promise matter more than your mood. Then tomorrow, add another, then another. Slowly your day becomes a series of small victories, and those victories stack. Speak them aloud. Let yourself hear your own progress, not to brag, to build. You are training your mind to believe in you. Picture this. A man wakes up before the sun. He says, I will rise early, and he does. He says, I will exercise, and he does. He says, I will not complain today, and he holds his tongue. These are not grand gestures, but each kept promise becomes a brick. And those bricks, over time, become a fortress, a structure he can stand on. When others ask, where does your confidence come from? He doesn't need to answer. He just nods, because he knows he built it with discipline, with relentless honesty. But if you're breaking silent agreements with yourself, if you say tomorrow, and it becomes next week, if you say just once, and it becomes a habit, if you make promises you already know you won't keep, then you are training yourself to distrust your own voice. And that is why you hesitate. That is why you feel stuck. It's not the world. It's the fracture between what you say and what you do. That's where insecurity is born. And the only way to heal that is not with inspiration, but integrity. So let me ask you this. Can you trust you? Strip away the noise. Forget the mask you wear in public. When it's just you, no audience, no pressure, are you a man of your word? Or are you still breaking the most important contract in your life, the one you made with yourself? Because here's the truth most never tell you. Confidence doesn't begin in your posture. It begins in your promises, the ones no one else hears, the ones that shape your soul. Decide today to make those promises sacred, to raise the standard of what your word means. You don't need to start loud, just start real. Build trust with yourself, one act at a time. And when you do, you'll walk taller, speak clearer, stand firmer, because nothing moves a man who trusts himself. That is where unshakable confidence lives, not in your voice, but in your follow-through. And once you have that, you won't need to act like nothing can stop you. You'll know nothing can. Walk with purpose, even before you know the path. You don't need to see every step. That's not how the journey works. You simply need to take the next one. With purpose, with conviction, with a sense that even though the entire path is not revealed, you are moving in the right direction. The man who walks in circles, second-guessing every move, endlessly analyzing, waiting for a sign, waiting for the fog to lift, never gets far. He mistakes hesitation for wisdom. But time passes anyway, and his indecision becomes its own decision. But the man who walks with direction, who steps forward into uncertainty with resolve, he begins to stir something greater. He may not know where the trail leads, but each step carves it into existence. He moves mountains, not because he sees the peak, but because he refuses to stop walking. Why do so many hesitate? Because the unknown terrifies them, because they've been told that certainty is safety, that you must have every answer before you act, that the road must be laid out in full, lit from end to end. But that's not how life rewards you. That's not how purpose is discovered. No man has ever seen the entire path before he began the climb. No legend was born with a perfect map. Purpose is not waiting at the summit, calling your name. It is forged in the ascent, in the struggle, in the steps taken without applause, without clarity, without approval. And the longer you wait for everything to align, the further you drift from the life that could have been yours. So what should you do when the way is unclear? Choose. Choose a direction. Pick a mission, not in desperation, but in discipline. You do not move with panic. You move with poise, not with fear, but with fierce intention. You don't chase 10 things. You commit to one. You plant your flag, and you walk. And as you walk, something strange begins to happen. The path begins to reveal itself. Doors open that you didn't see before. People appear who weren't there at the start. The ground beneath you strengthens with each step, but none of it happens unless you begin. And when doubt creeps in, as it always does, don't seek comfort in results. Anchor yourself in values. Ask yourself, what kind of man do I want to become? That question will serve you more than any plan ever could. Because when you know the man you are building, you don't need the world to reassure you. You have a compass that doesn't depend on conditions. It doesn't matter if it's sunny or storming. If the crowd is cheering or silent, you keep moving. And every step you take in alignment with your values is a brick in the foundation of your future. You don't need speed, you need direction. A man moving slowly toward a worthy mission is miles ahead of the man running in circles with no clarity. Don't confuse motion with meaning. The question is not how fast am I going, but am I headed somewhere that matters? Picture this. Two travelers stand at the edge of not the exact route, but the direction. So he steps forward. He meets allies. He adapts. He discovers hidden roads. The terrain shifts, but so does he. He grows because he moves. And the other, he's still at the beginning, still sharpening his pencil, still waiting, still stuck. Now ask yourself, are you walking or just thinking about walking? Are you in motion or are you just planning to be? You don't need to have it all figured out. No one does, and if they say they do, they're lying. Life doesn't reward the most prepared, it rewards the most committed. You earn your wisdom by walking through the fog. You find your strength in uncertainty. You uncover the path by taking steps, not by standing still. So trust your feet, trust your effort, trust that the man who keeps moving, even when he's unsure, is the man who eventually arrives, because he learns, because he endures, because he acts. You don't need to know every turn. You don't need the full map. You just need the courage to begin. One step, then another, and another. That's how paths are made. That's how lives are built. That's how greatness is earned. So will you walk forward, even when the road isn't clear? Or will you stand still, waiting for a certainty that never comes? The next step is waiting, and it's yours to take. Stop explaining yourself. Let results speak. The man who constantly explains himself reveals more than just his words. He reveals his uncertainty. When every move you make is followed by justification, when every decision must be padded with disclaimers and defended from imaginary critics, you're not living from a place of conviction. You are negotiating with your own doubt. But the man who moves in alignment with his purpose does not require applause or approval. He moves because it is time to move. He acts because he knows what must be done. The world may not understand him, may even question or mock him, but he does not shrink because he is not here to convince the crowd. He is here to build. Why, then, do so many feel the need to explain themselves? Why the endless disclaimers, the hesitations, the justifications? It is not always weakness, but it is often misplaced energy. At the root, it's a hunger for validation, a desire to be seen, to be understood, to be affirmed, especially by those who have no stake in your future. But here's the harsh truth. If you're always adjusting your course based on outside opinions, then your mission is no longer your own. You've handed the wheel to people who are not on your journey. You've given them authority they didn't earn. And now they shape your path without ever taking a single step beside you. Let this be a reminder. Your life is not a group project. Your calling is not a committee decision. The people who question your path don't carry your burdens. They don't wake up with your worries or stay up with your dreams. They don't know the prayers you've whispered, the sacrifices you've made, or the battles you've fought in silence. So why should their doubts define your direction? You must learn this truth early. The more you try to explain your way into approval, the more you dilute your own power. You begin to bend, to shrink, to soften your voice until it's no longer your own. And once you start tailoring your truth to please the crowd, you lose the clarity that was meant to carry you forward. Conviction becomes compromise. Vision becomes vague. But it doesn't have to be this way. How do you break this habit? You start by believing deeply in your own decisions. You act with clarity, not with arrogance, but with quiet strength. You trust the preparation behind your step. You trust the wisdom behind your silence. If you've thought deeply, reflected honestly, prayed sincerely, then move and let that movement be your statement. You don't owe the world a speech. You owe it your transformation. Let your life explain what your words never could. Let your results settle the debate. Imagine a man who rises before dawn. He doesn't make announcements. He doesn't post his intentions. He doesn't explain why he's training, why he's studying, why he's building. He just does it. His neighbors notice the change, but they don't understand. They laugh. What are you doing all this for? He hears them. He smiles, but he says little. Why should he speak when his future is speaking louder with every action? Days pass, then months. While they are still watching, still guessing, still critiquing, he is thriving. His home grows warmer, his body stronger, his presence more commanding. And slowly the laughter fades. The questions change. They stop mocking. They start asking. And not out of ridicule, but respect. That is the power of a man who stops explaining and starts embodying. When you live in alignment with your values, when your choices are guided by purpose, when your daily actions are rooted in vision, you no longer need to be understood. You need only to continue. Respect will follow, not always instantly, but inevitably. Because nothing speaks louder than consistency. So now the question turns to you. Are you trying to explain your way to respect, hoping that if you talk long enough, others will finally approve? Or are you building a life so solid, so undeniably disciplined that no explanation is ever needed? One path leaves you drained, constantly performing, constantly defending. The other leaves you empowered, because your life becomes your message. Your strength becomes your language, and your silence becomes the loudest proof that you are not living for permission. Speak less, move more, let the results rise in your defense. Let the transformation do the talking, because in the end, the world does not remember what you said you would do, it remembers what you did. Success favors the man who acts calm under fire. The storm doesn't destroy a man, it reveals him. It strips away illusion, comfort, and control. It tests the very structure of who he is beneath the surface. And here's the truth. Most people don't fall because of the storm itself. They fall because of how they react to it. Panic is what breaks them. Fear is what drives them off course. But the man who remains calm, he becomes something different. He doesn't just survive the storm, he commands it. While others run, shout, or shut down, he stands still, grounded, centered, like the eye of the storm, because he knows something they don't, that the man who holds his ground owns it. Why is calm so powerful? Because pressure is the great separator. It divides the men who rehearse strength from those who possess it. It exposes who is real and who is merely performing. When everything is smooth, everyone looks composed. Everyone talks big. But when the temperature rises, when things go sideways, only the prepared endure. Only the man who has trained for intensity can stand in it without shaking. Calm, then, becomes more than a mood. It becomes evidence. Proof that your character is not rented but owned. And in those moments, people look to the one who doesn't flinch, the one who doesn't add noise but brings order. You must understand something many never will. Calm is not weakness. It is not passivity. It is not surrender. Calm is control. It is strength, filtered through discipline. It is the outcome of a man who has decided that his emotions will not command him. He will command them. He doesn't allow panic to rise just because the world is shaking. He doesn't let anger lash out just because it's easy. He understands that real power is not in how loud you can get, but in how stable you can remain. So how do you build this kind of calm in a world addicted to chaos? You prepare. Not just physically, but mentally. You rehearse in your mind the battles before they arrive. You practice silence in the small things so you can command stillness in the big ones. You learn to pause before you speak, to breathe before you act, and to observe before you react. You train yourself to remain the same when everything else changes. That doesn't mean you're numb. It means you've mastered the art of response over reaction. You learn to spot the warning signs in yourself, the tightening jaw, the racing mind, the clenched fist, and instead of letting them drive you, you slow them down. You turn inward and remind yourself, I will not give this moment my peace. That's discipline, that's training, that's strength. Because anyone can be calm when it's easy, but to be calm when it's not, that is what separates a man of power from a man of noise. Picture this, you're part of a team. A crisis erupts, everyone is shouting, people are blaming each other, scrambling for answers, throwing fuel on the fire. Chaos rises, emotions spike, but you stay quiet. You don't speak to be heard, you speak to bring direction. You breathe, you watch, you think, and then, at the right moment, you speak. Clear, steady, intentional, and the room shifts. The noise drops. Eyes turn toward you, not because you overpowered them, but because you were the only one not overpowered by emotion. That's what calm leadership looks like. That's what command feels like. Not thunder, but grounding. And here's what happens next. People begin to trust you, not just in the moment, but beyond it. They remember how you acted when it mattered most. They remember your stillness, your composure, your clarity. And that becomes your identity. You become the one others lean on when the pressure rises. Not because you have all the answers, but because you are unshaken in the search for them. So ask yourself now, honestly, are you training your calm like a muscle? Are you practicing peace when it's quiet so you can carry it when it's loud? Or do you let your emotions hijack your power at the first sign of resistance? Do you throw your strength away the moment something doesn't go your way? Because life will not ask you if you're ready before it tests you. The storm will not knock politely. It will everything else sways. The man who keeps his peace under pressure owns more than the moment. He owns himself. And once a man owns himself, there is nothing that can truly shake him. Be the man others count on, not the one who crumbles. There's a rare kind of man whose very presence brings steadiness. He walks into the room and something shifts, not because he's louder than the rest, not because he demands attention, but because he's anchored, grounded, dependable. When things go wrong, when chaos breaks loose, when tempers flare, when plans collapse, people look to him, not because he has all the answers. Often he doesn't. But what makes him different is this: he never runs. He shows up. He stays calm. He becomes the foundation others lean on when their own legs start to shake. And that kind of presence isn't built in comfort. It's built in fire. Why do most men avoid this kind of responsibility? Because being dependable means carrying weight. It means letting others lean on you when they can't stand on their own. And that terrifies them. They fear pressure. They fear being the one everyone turns to in moments of crisis. Because in those moments, there's no hiding, no room for excuses. You're either solid or you're not. But what they fail to see is that pressure is not the enemy, it is the forge. It is the heat that tempers steel, the resistance that reveals strength. The very thing they avoid is the very thing that could build them into someone worth following. You don't need to be perfect to be reliable. You don't need to have all the skills or the flawless plan. You just need to show up, especially when it's inconvenient. You need to keep your word when it would be easier to break it. You need to carry out the task when no one's applauding, no one's thanking you, and no one's watching. And over time, that simple act, consistency, becomes something far more powerful. It becomes respect. And respect is not flashy, it's not quick, but it lasts longer than charisma, and it reaches deeper than charm. A man who's consistent becomes someone others feel safe around, not because he protects them from everything, but because they know he'll be there through anything. That's how leadership is born, not through declarations or authority, but through reliability, through a proven history of showing up, standing firm, and doing what needs to be done, without complaint, without show, and without needing to be celebrated. So how do you become that kind of man? You start small. You make a promise to someone, and you keep it. You say you'll help, and you follow through. You commit to a goal, and even when it's uncomfortable, even when no one would notice if you backed out, you don't. You develop a habit of showing up when others fade. And when things get hard, because they will, you don't disappear. You double down. That's how you build a foundation, not just for yourself, but for the people who will one day need to lean on you. Imagine this. There's a family crisis. Emotions are high. Things are falling apart. One man panics. He lashes out, makes excuses, points fingers, says it's not his fault. Another man steps forward, quietly, calmly. I've got it, he says. No drama, no spotlight. He handles the logistics. He communicates what's needed. He helps people breathe. He finds the next step and takes it. Not because it's easy, but because it's right. He becomes the calm in the storm, the rock in the flood. And in the years that follow, people may not remember every word he said, but they remember how he made them feel. Safe, steady, seen. That's the man people remember. The man who made chaos feel a little less chaotic, who didn't flinch under pressure, who didn't vanish when things got heavy. He didn't need applause. He didn't need to announce his role. He just did the job. So now the question is this: who are you when it counts? Are you the one people count on, or the one they hope doesn't get involved? Do people breathe easier when you show up or brace themselves? Because your legacy won't be built in the good times. It will be shaped in the hard ones. And it won't be measured by how many people cheered for you, but by how many could lean on you when it mattered most. This isn't about being the hero. It's about being present, reliable, grounded. Being the man others know won't disappear when the weight gets heavy. That's the kind of strength that builds families. That carries teams. That changes legacies. So step into it. Don't run from responsibility. Rise to it. Let pressure shape you, not shatter you. And build a reputation that doesn't need defending, because it's built on proof. Be the man who stays, the man who steadies, the man they can count on, always. Cut off the escape routes. Commit fully. Most people don't fail because they lack talent. They don't fall short because they weren't smart enough or capable enough. They fail because they leave the back door open. They plant their feet in two worlds, the world they want and the world they know. One step forward, one step in retreat. They build an escape plan before they've even begun. If this doesn't work, I can always fall back on that. As I get tired, I'll just pivot. If it gets too hard, I'll leave. And so they never give their full weight to the mission, never their full heart, never their full force. They keep a piece of themselves in reserve. And that piece, the part that refuses to commit, is what eventually costs them everything. To win at anything meaningful, you must burn the bridge behind you. You must act as if turning back is not an option. Because until that moment, your effort will always be divided. You'll hesitate, you'll compromise, you'll soften when it gets hard. But once you say, this is it, I will make it work, or I will be made by the process, something shifts. You stop bargaining, you stop stalling, you stop asking for permission, and you start becoming. Commitment is rare for one reason: it's uncomfortable, it's terrifying. It strips you of the illusion of safety. It removes the parachute, cuts off the exit, and demands that you stand and fight. That's why most people never taste true transformation. They flirt with change, but they never marry it. They visit discipline, but they never move in, because deep down, they're still holding on to the hope that there's an easier way, a shortcut, a softer road. But power, real power, arrives when you make the hard choice. When you tell yourself, I'm all in. No maybe, no half effort, just decision. And the moment you do that, the world begins to respond, because life has a strange way of moving in the direction of conviction. Doors begin to open, resources begin to gather, people begin to notice, not because your talent changed overnight, but because you did. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot build a legacy while constantly checking the exit. The man who moves with power is the man who has decided there is no plan B, not because he's reckless, but because he knows success demands everything: his time, his energy, his focus, and above all, his trust in the path he chose, in the man he's becoming, in the fire that will shape him. So how do you reach this point? First, you must get clear on your goal. Not vague, not wishful, clear. What are you building? Who are you becoming? Then you must strip away everything that competes with it, the distractions, the detours, the backup plans. You must raise the stakes. Speak your decision out loud. Tell people, declare it, make it real. Then put something on the line. Time, money, reputation, comfort. When your energy has no alternative direction, it becomes unstoppable. It stops dripping in 100 places and becomes a flood toward your future. Picture it. A warrior steps onto the battlefield. Behind him, the bridge is burned, smoke rises, the flames are final. There is no way home except forward. No escape, no retreat. And in that moment, he is not paralyzed. He is liberated. He fights not with hesitation, but with absolute conviction. There is no what if, no maybe, only action, only resolve. That is what makes him dangerous. That is what makes him unbreakable. Because he's not conserving strength for tomorrow. He's using everything today. That's what gives you the edge. That's what makes you dangerous. You become the man who is not negotiating with fear, not entertaining excuses, not saving strength for another day. You give all. You become all in. And in that space, you become something more. You become the kind of man who finishes what he starts, the kind who keeps his word to himself, the kind who doesn't fold under pressure, because there is no other option but through. So now, take a hard look at your life. What escape routes are you still clinging to? What quiet lies are you telling yourself that make it easier to pause, delay, retreat? What bridges are still standing behind you, tempting you with the comfort of familiarity? And then ask yourself, what if you cut them off today? What if you decided right now that the way back no longer exists? Would you rise or would you run? This is the question that defines men. Not their talent, not their upbringing, but their decision. The decision to commit fully. The decision to stand in the fire and say, I'm not leaving until I win, or I'm forged by the process. Burn the bridge, walk forward, make it real, and let the world feel the power of a man who has nothing left to lose because he's already decided to give it all. The world bows to the man with unshakable vision. Nothing commands life like a man with a clear vision. Not vague wishes, not half-formed ambitions, not the drifting dreams that flicker in and out depending on mood or mood swings, but a sharp, focused, definite picture of the life he is building. That kind of vision is a force. It makes the invisible visible. It gives shape to the formless. It makes the future real long before it arrives. A man with vision doesn't walk like other men. He doesn't respond like other men, because everything that happens to him, delay, rejection, pain, resistance, it all gets filtered through a singular lens. Where am I going? Vision turns waiting into patience, not